All right, everybody. For anyone I have not had the pleasure to meet, my name is Mary Margaret Busby, and I'm the president of the PRAM Central chapter. And we're happy y'all joined us today. Happy to see, of course, some of our regular member spaces as well. If anybody has any announcements, anything, I know normally it's for events people have going on and that kind of thing, which isn't happening quite as much. Let's put this on time right now. But if anybody does have any announcements or anything they would like to share, please feel free to take the floor. Anybody, anything? All right. What about any of our board members? Any updates? Mar, you have anything on the APR front? Anybody have anything they'd like to share?
I do. I have reached out and found out that, the show must go on. Yay. So even in spite of COVID-19 and some of the restrictions we're all dealing with, the accreditation, the UAB board is allowing Zoom readiness reviews or presentations. So I think readiness review is the old term they used when I got my APR. So I have talked to a couple of candidates that are looking into doing it that way, but if anyone is interested in pursuing their APR, some of us are busier than ever and some of us have more time on our hands than ever, but if you're in the latter camp, this would be an especially potentially good time for you to think about doing just that, and I am here to help answer any questions, set up these panel presentations or help in any other way that I may be able to in that regard.
Awesome, thank you. Well, good. I'm glad they're doing that so it won't slow some people down that had already kind of started that process. I feel like they have to come to a halt. All right. Well, I guess is Bill on here?
Oh, Mary Margaret, do you want me to talk?
I'm here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. No, Jean, go ahead. Did you want to introduce any members we've had?
Yeah, 8 new members joined since we last met in person in February, which is great, all things considered. So I'm just I don't know if I just did a quick scan of the participants. I don't know if these names popped out at me. I don't think they did, but give a wave if you're on the camera and you're here. We have Amanda Fontaine from the Mississippi Association of Broadcasters, Greg Hatcher from the Mississippi Industrial Museum, Melissa Scallon from the Mississippi Development Authority, Kelly Shannon from Copiah County Medical Center, and we have 4 new members from St. Dominic Hospital, Sloan Blair, Andrea Farmer, Maggie Goodman, and Amanda Mills Jones. So we'll get their certificates when we get back into the office. So those are our newest members.
Thank you, Jean. That's awesome. I'm glad we still have people realizing there's still plenty of benefit to be had, and good. That's awesome. All right, good. Glad you got on there, making sure you were good. All right. Well, if anybody doesn't have anything else that they would like to share before, Bill, if you want to go ahead and introduce Paul for us.
I will. Paul Wolf is with us today, and we are very he is the he works with the city of Jackson, with Visit Jackson, Visit Jackson, my city, and he has strength in design, writing, photography, new media, and voiceover work, and he's the content marketing manager. In his role, he writes for social media and blog content. He oversees website management and podcast video production, and is a photographer for the agency. And he's also the founder of, this is very interesting, of Find It in Fondren, a longtime magazine and brand now serving the Fondren community through digital channels. He started his career at the age of 18 while in college as the general manager of the school's non-commercial radio station. And in the years that followed, he would host numerous radio programs and hold positions as news director and director of operations for stations across Mississippi. And he got a lot of awards for that from the Mississippi Association of Broadcasters. He's a founding member of Team Jackson, serves on various steering committees throughout the city, and acts as a secretary for the advisory board of St. Dominic's. And he lives in Fondren with his wonderful wife, who's on our board, Sophie Wolf. So please help me welcome Paul Wolf.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for that warm welcome. I am so sorry we cannot be in person, but I am glad that we can be here together. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And by the way, hello to so many familiar faces out there. I recognize a lot of names and a lot of folks here, so I'm glad you joined us today. Give me just a moment. This is new territory for me with sharing the screen, so here we go. Well, so this is me. Pre-COVID-19, you can tell from the height of the hair, right? We're just slightly higher these days. I have spoken at PRAM before. Sophie and I are the Jacksonians behind the brand Findin' and Fondren, as Bill mentioned. I founded that brand 11 years ago, and it exists today digitally as a side project for us. So the hair is not the only thing that's higher these days. I would say that my adrenaline levels have kind of gone through the roof lately. The past 10 weeks have been busier than the 10 before. That's right. Think about this. We are 20 weeks into the year, okay? And half of those weeks have been spent in COVID-19 land, in pandemic land. And so when I talk to you about what I talked to you about today, it still kind of blows my mind how much we have done in the past year at Visit Jackson. So today I want to talk about my role at Visit Jackson. I want to talk about Visit Jackson's role to the community. And then at the end, I want to talk to you about your role as well. It kind of seems cliche to say that, Visit Jackson has a little bit of an identity crisis among some folks. I want to kind of take you to where we are or where we were, so you know where we are and you know where we're headed, so to speak. Simply put, Visit Jackson is a corporate, quasi-governmental organization charged with driving visitors and meetings to the city of Jackson. And we do that under two brand umbrellas. City with Soul is our visitor-focused brand, and My City, it's our local city pride brand. We are marketers, we are storytellers, we are public relations specialists, and we are also cheerleaders and salespeople. If Siri is talking to you, she may be speaking, she's talking to me for sure. If you'll give me just a moment, I am so sorry. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a moment so I can turn Siri off. I do apologize. The unintended glitches of working remotely.
I couldn't hear. I don't know if anybody else could, but I couldn't hear on this end.
Good. So she's just in my ear then. How about that? That's okay. All right. So let's get back to it. This is the fun stuff. So why is Visit Jackson so important to Jackson itself? Well, the numbers on your screen speak for themselves. As an industry for the state of Mississippi, the hospitality sector brings in 24.7 million visitors. There's been an increase, as you see, over the past year. The number of jobs makes us the fourth largest employment sector in the state of Mississippi. But we do have challenges to what we do. The numbers do speak for themselves. The growth is there. The potential is there. The value is there, but the challenge is too. Jackson, Mississippi is a tough destination to market. A lot of us know that. Decades of economic decline and crippling infrastructure, especially in the downtown, there's a perception of crime when it's actually statistically one of the safest places in the state, believe it or not, according to the numbers. Recent markers, including controversial legislation, HB 1523, that actively discriminates against members of the LGBTQ people in our society. And we found out too that our key demo is millennials. Do they have money? Well, the stats say that they do, and they're the ones coming to Jackson. We feel like that could be a little bit of a mountain to climb. Some of the problems, maybe not the traditional traveler that we've expected. I left out a very important part of our job, though. We're problem solvers. It's what we do best. In the past year, I have been a part of a larger team of 17 and an immediate team of 4, our marketing team. In just under a year, this group of fine folks you see right here, Sean Perryman, Jonathan Pettis, Kim Lewis, and myself, posed in front of that City with Soul wall, have recreated our visitor brand revolving around our 5 major destination pillars. Those are music, civil rights, literature, culinary, and the arts. Graphically, as you can see behind us in that photo there, our City with Soul brand was updated to be a little more emphasis on the word soul. We've got merchandise with it on there, our social media channels, and our websites like visitjackson.com. It is mobile responsive. The branding has been updated. Gorgeous photography, as you see there, and very clear ways to communicate with us. There's also the My City brand, jxn.ms. Now, prior to 2020, website traffic at visitjackson.com had been at an all-time high. Page views were up 56%. Session duration up 56%. Our bounce rate was down 58%. And social engagement, 88% higher on Facebook, March to March, from 19 to 20. Instagram, 11% higher, and 40% higher on Twitter. Now, I mentioned My City. Prior to COVID, locals began flocking to this site as a trusted news source, and to our Instagram and Facebook channels as well. On Instagram alone, we have 14,500 followers. Now, a little bit of behind the scenes magic in the kitchen sort of thing here. Eat Jackson had been a big brand partner of ours for several years. When they decided to shift their direction, they said, would you want an Instagram account, one that has 14,000 plus followers on it? So for a nominal fee, we were able to purchase that account. Now in October of last year, it was kind of a soft launch for jxn.ms. We were still trying to figure out direction for the blog and exactly what it needed to look like. But fortunately, a big story came to Fondren. Robert St. John, the restaurateur from Hattiesburg, he decided he was coming here and was going to put in a new development. And for the record, no, I don't know when that's happening now. I have no idea. It has been delayed, of course, through COVID. But that story alone had 13,500 page visits. So people were starting to trust us as a news source. Now, music. I'm a huge music fan. I want you to think for a second of a time in your life. I'll give you just a second. Think about the music you were listening to. Be it a family vacation, be it a time of tragedy in your life. Think about the song you were listening to. For me, it was a trip down Highway 49. I remember this vividly, being on Highway 90 in Biloxi on the way to Florida to see my grandmother and listening on my Sony Walkman to a cassette tape of George Michael's Listen Without Prejudice, Volume 1. Don't hate me. That's what I was listening to. So we think that lyrical branding and music videos and songs are a great way to reach people. In 2017, My City was launched, the song by AJC and the Envelope Pushers. There was a catchy video that went along with it that took AJC all over Jackson, and it was a huge success for us. Now, 2020, City with Soul by Tania. You see the screenshot there, featuring the rapper Fifth Child. That video alone and that song had been seen in the first few weeks, as soon as we put it up, by 100,000 people. And that was with no paid promotion, no ads, no boosts of any kind. We also, at the first of this year, opened a new welcome center. Now, the funny thing about that is I was supposed to speak to you all back in March. And it was my hope that after I spoke at the Capitol Club, we were going to come down the stairs and we were going to all tour the Welcome Center together. Well, this is the best I can do for you now. There's also a 360 that I'll put in the Facebook event after this is over, so you can take a virtual walk around. But we have Jackson merchandise. You see that custom, one-of-a-kind JXN table there. Sweet and salty, says the shirt on the mannequin. My City, pride, pride in Jackson is what we're promoting in the Welcome Center. Now, I'm a former radio guy, as Bill mentioned, so this part for me, just perfect to be a part of a podcast. And it was one of the things when Visit Jackson and I talked last spring about me coming on board was, oh yeah, by the way, you're going to be a big part of this podcast. And I said, sold, I'm in. So we do soul sessions once a month, conversations on culture from Jackson, Mississippi. Our test episode was our own CEO, Ricky Thigpen. And then we've heard from David Lewis with the City of Jackson. He's a cultural director for the city over Thalia Mara Hall and the Planetarium and Arts Center and other entities. We've had artists on. We've had Gino Lee from the Big Apple Inn. Everybody loves Gino, and he's such a great storyteller. We also just recently put out What's Cooking in Jackson, Mississippi, in partnership with the local Palette, a national magazine. And this 16-page insert was in 50,000 copies of the local Palette for the April-May issue. We printed an additional 15,000 copies to distribute around Jackson. And I can say this because I didn't have any hand in actually designing it or writing it. I think you'll agree it is a gorgeous piece. Writer Chris Chamberlain came to Jackson in late 2019 and helped us put this together. And we feature rising stars, City with Soul standouts, Jackson institutions, and capital city cocktails. And then influencers. Influencers are a big space. They're people who have quit their jobs and uprooted their lives to travel the country or the world to talk about the experiences that they have in a city or a destination, and they get paid for it. So that's a cool job. That'll be my second career, maybe, to be an influencer. But we began in 2019 partnering with an agency out of New York by the name of DCI. They help vet the influencers that come to your market. Their visits all touched on the unique food and culture scene here. And of course, everything has to be tagged City with Soul when they post. So it helps us to get our brand across. And I can share a lot of numbers with you about how this campaign worked out. But the one that's the best metric to me, 1.46 million measured engagements with that campaign in the year 2019. Most of this happened before I even came on board at Visit Jackson last June. Now, it even won a state tourism award. I was happy to be in the room in Columbus last fall when we received Social Media Campaign of the Year from the Mississippi Tourism Association. Now, city brand, it's our locals brand. Our post had revolved around local events, a weekly top 5 of things to do, activities in the city, excitement, heavily focused on fun, lighthearted, good-natured Jackson, and then on Friday, the 13th, March 13th of all days, we went home at 5 p.m. and we were told, watch your email over the weekend. A global crisis had started to take shape. Now, we had heard there really aren't that many cases and there aren't even any in Mississippi. Well, that was then, until there were that many cases. And they started piling up. We canceled a St. Patrick's Day event at our Welcome Center, and in the same day closed the Welcome Center indefinitely. For heaven's sakes, the Howlin' Mouse St. Patty's Parade was canceled. 37 years, it's never happened even on the stormiest of Saturdays. From promotional mode to crisis mode, telling a different story. The capital city was shutting down. Event by event, business by business, and all across the state, the same thing was happening. We needed to provide information, but we needed to provide a sense of hope. And so our marketing team transformed our City with Soul brand to be City with Soul Strong. We wanted to communicate optimism and positivity while not appearing tone deaf to the situation. We, like every other city, stopped asking visitors to come see us. We just shut it down. No more advertising, no more pleas of, but you got to try the food. Everybody was shutting down. And remember too, the travel sector, 4th largest employer in the state of Mississippi, has been hit especially hard by this pandemic. Our mayor had excitedly watched a video from Birmingham where Birmingham's mayor had this message of hope and this excitement. And he said, Jackson needs one of those. We need a video. So who did he call? He called Visit Jackson. We began working with his office and his communications director. The plan came together. The resulting video, titled City with Soul Strong, is a 60-second piece for both citizens and potential visitors. Now, I'm going to show this to you in just a second, but think about this as you watch. From start to finish, the video was completed and on air within 5 days with the help of Maris, West, and Baker. Take a look. Unfortunately, my wife is telling me that this is just in my ears and you're not hearing the audio. So please watch and know that there's an inspiring voiceover asking us all to stay City with Soul strong. Again, what fun to play with new technology on the fly. So I can share that script with you in the Facebook event for this particular. Just a moment. Okay, thank you. All right, so we're going to keep going. Sylvie was just telling me if I would take out my headphones, you might be able to hear it. I'm going to share the video with you in the Facebook event so you can watch it on your own leisure and hear it at your own time. So our marketing team has transformed the City with Soul brand into a video now, and local TV stations began airing this in partnership with us and putting out social media messages to help, all at very little to no cost, from the production to the ad time, very little to zero cost in all of this. Partnership, collaboration, teamwork. Now our focus has shifted to more strong messaging to be statewide, tourism strong, Mississippi strong, to begin to invite folks back to Jackson and to the state of Mississippi. As a matter of fact, as soon as we're done here today, I will be out filming with, I mentioned him earlier, Gino Lee, and we're working on a spot that focuses on the power of food and how it affects Jackson and the tourism industry and the state in so many ways. In the earliest days of COVID, that was just 2.5 months ago, remember? I took off my feature writer's hat to become more of a reporter for JXN.ms. We were the first and maybe still the only to put out a comprehensive Jackson-wide list of restaurants who were open or who were closed. We've updated that list in the past week and a half again and continue to update it every single day. When the city's dine-in ability became known again, we started calling. We had a team of 5 people calling restaurants all over the city. Online press conferences on a weekly basis, and for a while there on a daily basis, had my attention. I'd sit and listen, transcribe, sometimes live tweet, and have a story up within 15 minutes on jxn.ms, sometimes faster than even the city could get a press release out. They would contact me and say, well, you beat us to it. But could you put in there? So we've been working together hand in hand. Now, I'm proud to say that the content that I've been producing has been picked up by the city to supplement their own resources. I'm even flattered that we're now working together. Now, don't get me wrong, Visit Jackson and the city of Jackson have always worked together in some form or fashion. But the last few months, the difference has been day and night. What was a series of misconnections and, hey, we all need to get together, that went on for months and months, has now forced us to sit down and collaborate, and I couldn't be happier. Our CEO, Ricky Thigpen, is on the Restart Jackson Task Force, a very select group of people that the mayor has put together to help Jackson reopen in a safe and effective way. The mayor's director of communications, Candace Cole, has become a friend of mine. She understands the power of teamwork as well. Their content creator, Melvin Robinson, he's a guy that I knew in name, but didn't really know him. Now he's a trusted collaborator. I know we're all saying, I can't wait until everything goes back to normal, but there are some things that I just don't want to go back to normal. Now let's talk about some other positives that have come out of this time. Last fall, our creative design manager, you see her here, she was hired 2 weeks after me last summer and began talking about her desire to showcase civic pride through public art, through murals. Again, collaboration. We spoke with David Lewis, who I mentioned earlier, as a guest on our Soul Sessions podcast. He's a big public art advocate. And David said, let me think about some walls. And we're all kind of sitting there mulling over a place for this mural to go. David stood up out of his chair and he exclaimed, oh, the back of the old Capitol Inn. It took us several months to find the right time to work on the mural. Sean, as you see here, is on a cherry lift. You couldn't pay me enough to be up there on top of that lift, and she wouldn't let me up there anyway. She wanted to paint the piece herself, and so I guess no better time than a pandemic to get you out of the office, which was closed, and begin working on it. Get ready for this. Over 29 days, Sean Perryman, our design manager, with the help of some staff members, painted this intricate mural. I mean, look at it. Eudora Welty, Meg Revers. Some of you say, who is is that Margaret Walker out? It is Thalia Mara, who is not just a building, by the way. Thalia Mara, who brought the USA IBC International Ballet Competition here to Jackson. And then the gentleman on the bottom, David Banner, philanthropist, hip hop musician, actor, Jackson native. 29 days. Look at it. It's diverse, it's colorful, it's soulful, it's unique, just like Jackson. Notice all the intricate details, every hand-painted line from the tiniest of brushes all the way to a roller. No spray paint here. This is all hand done. It sits across from the plaza at the two Mississippi museums, so you can't help but notice it if you're downtown, especially from the museums. Sean Perryman, seen here, our design manager, is super proud of this, and we are too. Now I have to pull back the curtain just a little bit and tell you about another project that I've been working on for the past couple of months. My City TV. Now, with social distancing as a norm, being in a podcast studio that's the size of a closet with an engineer, with two hosts and a guest, not a great idea right now. So I decided that from home, we could go live on Instagram twice a week, interview people and talk to them, and then Wi-Fi issues and sound dropping out. Technical difficulties, please stand by. So My City TV became a thing. And just like we're using Zoom right now for this, I began leveraging the functionality of this service to record the body of what has become a short-form talk show on IGTV and Facebook. You see DJ Young Venom, Philip Rollins here from his Midtown Jackson shop, interviewing with me, sitting right here at home. It's on twice a week, and I generally ask the same 4 questions. I ask how people are coping with COVID, personally and professionally, and how their job has been affected, or their place in life has been affected due to the pandemic. We take a short break, and I come back, and I always ask them what are their plans moving forward. And then I think my favorite question, what do you love about Jackson? It always gets such a great response. And I always smile just a little more when I hear them talk about how they're so proud of the city. Now, you might be thinking, where's your studio? Where are you set up? What's the audio interface you use? What cameras are you using? There it is. I'm actually coming to you live right now from the set of My City TV. My poor home office has been in disarray for the past 11 weeks. And what has the cost been to do all of this TV show twice a week? It's free. A little bit of time, a little bit of ingenuity, the ability to simply adapt. So I know what you may be thinking. I make all this sound so rosy and so easy, right? But that's what writers do. That's what I do best. I make the best out of all situations. For the past 13 years, I've been telling people stories, and I feel like that's what I'm good at. I love my job. I love being able to just be a small part of what helps change hearts and minds about Jackson and all that she has to offer. And for the record, I never said it was easy. Let's get that clear. I just get a reward out of this personally. I really do. I do this in my free time and when I'm on the clock getting paid too. Now, I'm not letting you off the hook so easily. I told you you had a job here, right? I told you you had a role in this. Everybody I see on screen nodding heads. Yes, you all have a job in this. As public relations professionals, it is your sworn duty on the clock and off to help spread the news, right? Sometimes it's tragic, but a lot of times it's good stuff. It's fun, it's uplifting, it's exciting. You look for the way to get the best information out in the world. So here's what I need you to do. When you see positive Jackson news, hit the share button. Facebook makes it really easy. As a matter of fact, when you're on your personal page and you hover over share, you click, it says share now. That's all you have to do. You don't have to type anything. Just hit it and let it go. I've done the work for you. Share positive news. But on the other hand, when you see the negative stuff, don't share it. We've all got better things to do with our time, and I promise you, for the one negative story out there, there are 9 positive that you can push out. We also put out a great deal of content on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You see those handles here for those separate brands. It won't cost you anything to hit share, and it'll help tell the story. Now, if you're booking groups or associations to come to Jackson, this is sales pitch time, everybody, but it won't cost you anything, so don't tune out on me. Our sales and services team is dedicated to you. They'll provide you with bags. We just got in a gajillion hand sanitizers that have the City with Soul logo on the side, and you can get some of those for your meetings too. Registration assistants to come and set up and check people in and hand them their bags, and also help you find meeting space. We've got tons of meeting space all over the city, and that's our sales team's job. They help you find what best fits for you. Now, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but it's all free. It's a free service. There's no catch. This is our job as Visit Jackson. We've recently completed captures of several of the bigger meeting spaces in Jackson, some 360 tours. And so you can take tours without even having to step foot in the convention complex and other locations around the city. Now, I'll give you some contact information later. If there's something you're interested in, those are not all online yet because we've just finished that project, but I can share some of those links with you if you are trying to book something. I hope that I've conveyed to you my passion for the city. I hope that I've conveyed too that you can pivot when you have to. Our organization has done that many times over the years. And today I am proud and confident to say we're at our strongest place yet. I really do believe that, or I wouldn't be a part of it. I believe in the mission of what we're doing at Visit Jackson. Post COVID-19, our future is looking brighter. I'm going to be optimistic about it. Our lawmakers from the city to the state, all the way to the federal level. As a matter of fact, our own CEO, Ricky Thigpen, is meeting with Roger Wicker's office tomorrow and Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith's office in June, early June, to drive home the importance of tourism to our state, the hospitality industry in our market, and all across Mississippi. As you feel a little safer venturing out from your home, all you Jackson area folks, the vacation is in your backyard. We're going to have plenty for you to do. Our attractions, fingers crossed, are opening in July. Don't hold me to it, but that's their hope and their plan as things begin to settle back into somewhat of a groove. Now, if you're from around the state, we welcome you here too. Jackson is ready to safely welcome you here. If I can personally be of assistance to you in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you for your time today. It's a unique situation in the way that we got to do this, but I'm glad we did. Does anybody have any questions?
I know I muted some of y'all while he was speaking, but feel free to unmute if anybody would like to ask anything. Anybody? Well, you might have a head up that we might not know yet. Do you have any word about Capitol Club opening?
I do not, unfortunately. Now, so that's part of the Derek Emerson family of restaurants, Parlor Market and Walker's. And I know that they've kind of held back a little bit. They've said, just for them personally, it's just not the right time. And so I am thinking sometime in June, though, we could see some movement from them. So maybe a late June or a July meeting, potentially. Socially distanced, of course.
Of course. It'll be awesome when everything can start opening back up again. I know there's a lot of concerts we were supposed to go to, missed out on.
We're excited for that too, because, just kind of, truth in advertising here, Visit Jackson's revenues are based on that 1% restaurant tax. So for us, when the restaurants are closed, that means our revenues are down too. And so a big focus of ours is the restaurant and the hotel, because we do gain some hotel room night tax as well. But we are excited to help the restaurant industry. We're excited to help our attractions. We're working on some things that Visit Jackson can do corporately to provide some things for our attractions. I really don't want to say what those are at this point, but they'd be things that would help them ease back into a safer method of operation. And so I hope to be able to talk about that soon.
Yeah. Anybody have anything?
Question. Can you just talk a little more about the content that you have on visitjackson.com and jackson.ms, JXNMS, and how you decide what goes where?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. So the content at visitjackson.com, again, fits under our City with Soul visitor-focused branding. It's a little more inspirational and aspirational. So lots of lists of attractions and places to eat, hotels to stay. We have some itineraries on there that kind of lead you through some of our civil rights and Freedom Trail markers and music and things like that in the city. On the other hand, the jxn.ms site is a little more fluid. It's a little more news relational. I don't know. I call it the sassy little brother. I get to speak a little more in my voice on there than the corporate voice, and do have a lot of fun with that sometimes. But we try to run things that I want to put things on there that I think the majority of people are going to look at. It's not very niche. We're trying to cover issues without being controversial. As a matter of fact, we will celebrate Pride Month. Visit Jackson has a diversity statement now that we haven't had, and it talks about how Jackson welcomes all people, despite HB 1523 or any other measures that might take place with our lawmakers or around the state. So we are covering Pride. We're covering what our restaurants are doing right now, especially. We're covering a lot more of what the city is doing, probably a little more than I normally would, a little more news focused. But I certainly, I said this when we started jxn.ms, which, by the way, is inspired by the I Love Memphis blog. They celebrate 10 years this year. And if you want to kind of know the direction that I hope we're going to be one day, go to ilovememphisblog.com. And it is a celebration of all things Memphis, events and restaurants and people. And so I'm more interested not so much in the what and the when, but the who and the why. I want to talk to people who have been putting on events for 20 years, and I want to know, why do you keep doing this year after year, and why is Jackson the place to do that?
I have a question.
Okay. Hey,
when Visit Jackson reopens, are there any plans to go back to having the little I don't know what y'all call them, Paul, but the little parties that y'all would have at lunchtime where you'd open up the visitor center and maybe have a musician play or something like that?
Yeah, that was our Spotlight series, and I think we actually got to do one of those before everything shut down. We were getting
I was there.
I know. I saw you there. It's an easy ride down the elevator for you, isn't it? It was our Spotlight series, and it was a St. Patrick's Day event that, I mean, literally that Friday.
Mardi Gras. Yeah.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Yeah, we did the Mardi Gras in February, and then St. Patrick's was coming up. And I
Oh,
literally
I'm peachy.
thinking that, surely we'll still have this. I mean, surely we haven't distanced far enough yet. And I mean, by the end of the day, that Friday the 13th, it was like, nope, canceling it, not going to chance it. So I do hope that as social distancing allows, it is a small space. We kind of have to, meter people in and out. But I do hope we can start having those again in some form or fashion.
Paul, I actually have a question
Okay.
on the other side of the house. So I think what was Gene maybe was getting at was that My City is the local focused brand. And this may be interesting for people to talk about. I actually worked at Visit Jackson 10 years ago. So Mara and I both have been kind of steeped in that a little bit at points in our life. But traditionally, tourism used to be marketed 100-mile radius and out. But you guys now are focusing on getting people to visit in their backyard. I'd love to hear a little more about that, about how it's just as important for locals to have pride in the city and to visit their own city and the efforts there.
You pretty much said it. It is important for folks that, I mean, honestly and truly, when I think of a visitor, in my mind, a visitor to Jackson, I think of it not necessarily somebody who's come in from New Orleans or Birmingham or flown in from DC or wherever. If you don't live in the city limits of Jackson and you come into the city to experience culture, food, music, whatever it may be, visitor is the wrong word, a guest. You're a guest in our city. And there are a lot of folks who maybe have moved here from elsewhere who live in the suburbs. Nothing wrong with the suburbs, but they don't understand the culture that is here in Jackson and the mom and pop restaurants that are here in Jackson, so many locally owned places that you can't get anywhere else. And so it has become a strategy of ours. And part of my coming on last June, we started talking back in April. And I said to them, look, I've been doing Find It and Fonder now for 12 years at the time. And it was all focused on one neighborhood. It's focused on the Fonder neighborhood of Jackson. And I knew the power that brand had had over those 12 years to bring people to a specific neighborhood. And I thought, why don't we harness the power of reaching out to locals to bring them to the whole city of Jackson? Fortunately, they were on that trajectory already. So yeah, I mentioned the My City music video that they did in 2017. They followed it up with a spoken word commercial this past year that used some of the same footage and themes to convey that this is your city. If you live in Madison or Brandon or Flowood, this is your city too. This is your capital city. I tell this every chance I get, and it's something that I heard from the mayor of Flowood so many years ago. Gary Rhodes said this. He said, Jackson is the trunk of the tree, and the suburbs are the branches. And if the tree dies, the branches are going to fall off. And so I believe in the importance of the city of Jackson and all that we have to offer here. And so that's why our strategy has switched a little bit. And we don't only reach out to visitors 100 miles out, we're reaching out to visitors in the suburbs right next door.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else? Anything? All right. Well, thank you so much, Paul. That was wonderful. And I know Sophie commented in the links, but also y'all can go to Visit Jackson's Facebook page, and that video is pinned right there at the top too. So y'all make sure to check that out. And of course, especially if you are local, but even if you're not, of course you can make sure and like all their pages on social media. Check out the great things they're doing. All right. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to speak with us.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Comments, questions, concerns?